Final hour overdrive continues. TSN 1050 now up on TSN 2. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Jays Giants tonight. Scott Mitchell from the park in a few moments. Kevin Gosman on the mound. And we'll get his take on the series. We'll get his take on a Giants team that we don't see too often, but they've been red hot, man. They've been the hottest team in baseball since May 1st. And they've won a bunch of games on the road lately. So this will be a tough test. This will be a tough test for the Jays. So Scotty coming up here in a few moments. We'll get back into the Manoah stuff, get his take, a reasonable take on what should be.
Yeah, not your reasonable where it's like a step back and you're like, no, he took a plane halfway around the world.
That's an extreme.
I think it was more the slow pitch, the glorified slow pitch league.
With guy with jean shorts on or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's the next step. I mean,
Carrying an igloo cooler to the ballpark with 13 Miller Lights for himself in there.
Yeah.
You had a few scorching takes there.
I had some takes.
on what the step down from the...
I'm just trying to express how I see this stat line.
Yeah.
Right? Like this pitching line from Manoah, 11 earned, 10 hits, gave up 2 home runs, 2 and 2/3. It's not...
It's outrageous.
It's not good.
No, it's not
really,
outrageous.
really, you cannot paint it in any positive light. I'm sorry.
Nope.
But maybe Scotty can try to do that. That's all I'm saying. So Scotty, he'll join us in a few moments. Jason Strudwick in half an hour. Struddy coming up at 6:30. We look forward to that. Get Struddy's take on McDavid last night, on how many hearts he thinks McDavid can win. We were just talking about that. We'll confirm or deny.
Yeah.
You guys are adamant he wins 3 more in his career.
I have a philosophy on it. I'll bring it up with Struddy, but I want both of your takes on it, including his, on why I think McDavid could win 3 more. Mm-hmm. So I think...
It's just rarefied air. Like you mentioned, Gordie Howe had 6.
Gordie,
Right.
that's
Gretzky
it.
had 9.
No one's ever touching that.
Lemieux, I think, had 3. Mario had 3.
Mario
Think
went through
about that.
some... You know,
No,
he had
he came and
cancer.
went,
He had,
exactly.
he had injuries, and he had, like, health issues. Again, you never know. You're talking if the guy's healthy the next 10, 12 years, I think the sky's the limit. But there is a bar set, and then... Just like the LeBron, like the Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Connor Bedard's entering the league.
Right. You got Bedard in the league. You've got, like, the idea of someone passing him in points if he's healthy seems very difficult to envision.
That's where my angle is
Right.
going.
Okay.
But this is where, like, I'm worried, and maybe I'm really in the minority when it comes to this. What if Bedard's just a really, really good player?
Mm-hmm.
What if he's not a superstar from day one?
Right.
Because, man, is he being painted in that, like, generational talent?
The amount,
And believe
like,
me,
the fact
we've
that he
seen
was there last night is wild.
He won an award last night.
it. Yeah. I don't know what he won. I can't remember. He won an award.
I
won
beg
an
your-
award.
How? He's not in the league yet.
Is it the E.J. Maguire? He's a former scout for NHL Central Scouting. Like,
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the award actually
Yeah,
is
look it
for.
up because I honestly...
we should get it right, but he did win an award. It might be a prospect,
Like best prospect.
Yeah.
something like that.
Okay, well,
yeah.
that I suppose is reasonable.
But you know what they do? Like, they bring, like, kids that are getting drafted next year. All these big agencies, they'll bring them down this year to sit there and watch the draft, which I think is a bit much.
Right.
Do you really need to go, like, sit there and watch that all? You're not getting drafted.
Yeah, I
not
don't know.
doing anything.
Yeah, you're right. Like, here's what you could be looking at next year.
Right. Is that necessary?
I'm not sure.
There's a lot of overkill when it comes down to it. You're right. It is the E.J. Maguire Award of Excellence. Now, we'll get a definition, but it's obviously top prospect or something like that. That's fine.
Well, he
it's
would
nice
fit
to
that
have him there.
description.
It is good. You know, you're trying to grow the game and sell the game, but he's a lot more along the lines from personality like McDavid than he is like...
Yeah, like Biz was trying to get him going last night.
He was
and
not having any of
wasn't in the
that.
mood
Although
for that.
Biz I thought was funny, but it's like...
Biz is trying.
I know. He's like, can you
was
give us a
trying.
Yahoo? And he
Yeah.
goes,
Yeah.
no, I don't think so.
Biz is always in the
But
mood.
even
He's
when
trying.
he was trying to get some, hey Tree, what are we doing? What are we doing this
that was
week?
awkward.
No one laughed at
transaction,
that.
Yeah.
transaction was awkward
Yeah.
because he took a shot at Shanny too. He's like, what are you staring at me? You blocked my number. Like, I thought it was funny.
I thought it was
Like,
funny too.
At least, Biz was trying. He was really trying.
Yeah.
But it speaks to, again, how stiff that whole situation is. There was Marner, what was Marner up for the Selke,
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
obviously Bergeron wins it. He has the acceptance speech. It's good. He's not there because he's having a child. He thanks everybody. And then they pan to Marner and they pan to somebody else. And it's just stone face. It's like, give us a smile.
Well, that was
you're up for it,
like
right?
when they were announcing the Hart.
Yeah.
And they show Pasternak, and he's kind of smiling. They go to Tkachuk, and Tkachuk looked like he was the most miserable human being on earth.
He had the death stare going.
Like, I'm not going to give anything. And, of course, McDavid's the same thing. Like, McDavid's not going to be
But that's what it is.
Mr.
Like,
Personality. It's not going to happen.
In watching that last night, it's great to see the awards and people that win them and all that. But I want it to be chill somehow. I don't know how you
not going to happen.
Get them to relax.
I'm not sure how it's going to happen.
Well, a guy who needs to relax is Alek Manoah, I believe.
Well, makes you wonder, like, what's he been up to for the last 3 weeks? Because Manoah made his first Florida Complex League start today. He goes 2 2/3, 11 earned runs, 10 hits, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, 2 home runs. This is the Complex League, 18 and 19-year-olds. Here's Scott Mitchell, our TSN Blue Jay reporter. Scotty, is there any positive spin you can put on that Manoah line?
Not just 18 and 19-year-olds. There's some 17-year-olds down there doing some damage, too. So,
great.
Yeah, it's real young.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, look, you guys probably heard the on-the-record comments from Schneider, and that's the positive spin and, the forward-facing, kind of comments the organization's going to make after a start like that. And, yeah, I talked to people kind of, behind the scenes and 2 people that had eyes on the start, and I got a yikes, I got a rough, and I got an ugly. And that just wasn't talking about the line. That's talking about how he looked in person. And, yeah, I mean, look, this is I never thought this was going to be a quick fix. Anyone that thought he'd go down there, for, as you said, kind of a couple weeks, 3 weeks, and just come out and, be right on that Roy Halladay track, I kind of wasn't seeing that. And, look, they've got him down there working on a ton of different things. And, we've been talking about this for 2.5 months now, and it's this whole snowball effect of, stuff down, command off, confidence once that starts to go, mechanics. You name it, it's been an issue, and it's all been a snowball effect. And he's down there doing a bunch of conditioning, too. And, look, he pitched in the 290s last year, and I heard he came into camp around 320. So people in the organization weren't super happy with that at points. I've heard, there were some things that maybe impacted his training. So I think there's a lot to this story. And, it's unfortunate for the Blue Jays and Manoah. I got a pretty good relationship with him. He's a great guy to deal with, obviously very confident. And it's just all snowballed on them. So obviously you look at that start today and, I don't think you can sit here and say there's been a ton of progress made just with the way the stuff looked and the command looked. It looked exactly the same as it did in the big leagues, and there were teenagers doing damage on it.
So, sorry, you said he showed up at 320. You heard 320? He showed up at camp?
Yeah, from multiple people that I talked to, pitching in the 290s last year. I heard it was 20, 25 pounds, something like that in the range.
Wow.
So.
And with the pitch clock too, right, Scotty? Like that, everyone was buzzing about it. That, like, everyone from the batters to the arms, like, you got to be ready to rock. Like this game is speeding up. And
the pitch clock is the one variable I left out of that, kind of long laundry list of issues kind of facing him and changing things from last year. Yeah, it's you come into camp out of shape and you got to work at a quicker pace. Your mechanics fall apart. You don't have success. Your confidence falls apart. And here we are.
Scotty, aside from like losing some weight, is it one of those situations where he gets on the mound or he's working in the bullpen and they're like, listen, this is the one thing that you're focusing on today. It's just this. It's nothing else. So at least we can kind of focus on that and see if that's making any progress?
Well, that's the thing. You can't attack these, all of these issues at once. And really, there's a root of the problem. You got to get his mechanics in order, which you hope, brings the velo back up and brings the stuff, back to where it was over the last 2 seasons, looking crisp, the command, mechanics, conditioning. That's really where it starts. So, conditioning, mechanics, get that in order. Then you hope the sharpness and the crispness and the stuff comes back. And then once that comes back and he starts getting a few results, hopefully the confidence comes back.
Now
Obviously, that, when you look at that start today, I think you worry whether he did make incremental progress in certain ways, because the line isn't everything, but that line, there's no way that inspires any sort of confidence in anybody, including him.
Yeah, this isn't, going back to you mentioned conditioning, and everyone obviously points to it. Like, this isn't about body shaming or anything. This is more about what you're capable of. And I think a lot of times when I played hockey, organizations, the strength and conditioning coach will look at you, everyone's built differently, and say, we think you're this is your optimal weight. We were talking about it with O-Dog yesterday, and how he was talking about a coach felt he played best at 201 and he was 212, so he needed to drop some weight to feel a little bit faster. This is a scenario here where where he came in heavier this season, and when you talk about going down there and conditioning, did any of your sources say that he did look lighter, or did it look like he was, maybe shedding some pounds where he gets to a comfortable weight for him, and where he's comfortable in bringing the juice like he did last year?
Yeah, look, I haven't asked, how he looks. I know he's working on the conditioning. I don't know how much weight you can lose in 3 weeks. It's probably, very individual, things like that. But that's definitely one of the focuses, and that's one of the base focuses, the starting points. And yeah, you talked about it. Look, we live in an interesting age when it comes to doing my job. I'm paid to, talk about how athletes perform and why they don't perform. And when people continue to point to the conditioning and tell me, he came into camp overweight, came into camp out of shape, that affects how you perform your job. These players are, paid to perform, and how, what kind of shape you're in is definitely part of that.
Yeah.
And, there's such a close story and connection with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and nobody had any problem pointing to his weight and his conditioning and things like that. And, sometimes it can be a little different for a pitcher. These are all big-bodied guys, but it's very clear when the stuff is diminished and the mechanics get out of whack because your body can't do the same things that it did in 2022. It's very clear that it's an issue, even if people don't want to talk about it.
Well, it's professional sports. You're an athlete. Like, it's a difficult job. It takes conditioning. And yes, everyone's built differently, and everyone has to come at it from a different perspective, but there is a bar that needs to be met.
Right.
And if you don't meet it, then you're not doing your job and you're not being professional. And, listen, we were harsh on him when he was pitching poorly. Today, this is an eye-popping stat line. Like, that's what
Right.
it is. And it's not about piling on. It's just it's a fact. This
Right.
is wild. What's going on with a guy that was top 5 in Cy Young last year, got the ball for game 1 of the wild card, got the ball opening day, which again makes me question how pissed off the Jays really were if they still gave him the ball opening day. They could have given it to Gausman. They didn't. So was there an element of catering on that side of things, Scotty? Where how rattled can you really be if you're still like propping the guy up and he's getting the ball opening day?
Absolutely. And I think, part of it is, appeasing your, kind of homegrown, quote unquote, ace. And part of it is, I kind of alluded to it before. I think there is more to this story. I think there was something that impacted his training, which he comes into camp. The Blue Jays obviously knew about it. And, that kind of changes how they view it, if there was a real reason or, quote unquote excuse. And like I'm saying, I'm kind of alluding to it because I don't have the whole story, but you start to hear that, there's probably a reason he came into camp, in that type of shape. So it's interesting. I don't know when this story ends. Steve Phillips and I talked about it on SC today. The trade deadline's in a month. Bullpen is clearly what this team is focused on right now, just talking to people around the game. And that makes sense, and that's what you need. But what do you need in this rotation? Do you need to eye a top of the rotation guy once they're on the market? If you're not getting, 2022 Manoah back, is he going to be a mid-rotation guy if he gets back in August? And maybe you have to look just at a depth option. It's real interesting, and it's completely changed kind of the equation of how you look at this Blue Jays team right now, because they're rolling through 4 starters, and that's only, going to last for so long here. And you got to figure out what you're going to get out of this guy who you counted on so much. And you got a month to do it.
Well, and they're a half a game up on Houston in the wild card. Anyone who's watched the Jays or knows and watched their moves over the last couple of years knows this is a team trying to win a championship. So I would imagine heading into the deadline, everything's like, okay, man, it's all systems go here. Like, we are trying to bolster this team no matter what based on the moves that we've made previous to this.
Absolutely. There's no chance this team could lose, 10 out of their next 25 games. They could lose their next 25 games, and they're still going to buy at the deadline. Vladdy, Bo, this core, this window's open. It's 3 years. It's right in front of them right here. And look, it's been an up and down year. There's been obviously some kind of things that have gotten away at certain points, whether it's Manoah, whether it's Anthony Bass, and they sort of weathered the storm. They're still one of the best teams in baseball, and over the last couple of leagues, they've actually played pretty well despite, some of their shortcomings. And yeah, look, I think, the one interesting wrinkle for me is, and I'm writing about this later this week, is you look at the AL East teams, they're all very good teams. And the problem for the Blue Jays is they have the worst farm system out of, any team in this division. And they've kind of emptied it out a little bit with graduations, Barrios trades, things like that. It's going to be real dicey, and they need to really look at their priorities, because I don't know if they can, kind of satisfy all of them with what's in the system unless you completely empty it out. And I don't think this front office, kind of has the appetite to do that. So it's going to be a real tricky trade deadline for them.
Jays Giants tonight. The Jays took 2 of 3 over Oakland over the weekend. The bats came alive. Vladdy in particular, he hits 2 home runs at home. Yet, people put a little bit of an asterisk on it because it's against Oakland and it's against that staff. What are you picking up on from Vladdy over the weekend, maybe what you're seeing today, that would lead you to believe it will continue into this Giants series?
Yeah, really good signs. I mean, look, statistically, he was still crushing the ball, still hitting it hard. I've touched on it numerous times. He had the MRI in the wrist in mid-May and an MRI in his knee. I never thought he was totally healthy. You look at 2 most important things for a hitter. It's your base and it's your wrists and your arms. And, I think he was battling through some things. That's why the power kind of diminished. Look, those are 2 rockets on the weekend. It doesn't matter, if it's the A's, Yankees, or, anybody. So really good signs. And then he's a game changer for this offense. And that's the difference between the offense we saw the last couple of years and this one that's been really, really inconsistent is once you have that guy in the middle of the order and the teams need to game plan around, they know he's in the on-deck circle, they know what he can do and kind of changing the game and doing damage on any sort of pitch. It completely changes your lineup construction and how other teams view you. And when Vladdy's going, we'll see if he can keep this going, because there's a heater coming at some point for him that's going to get his numbers back to where everyone expects. And I think we saw some real good signs with that on the weekend.
All right, Scotty, enjoy yourself down there, and we'll do it again soon. Thank you, buddy.
Cheers, fellas.
There's Scott Mitchell, our TSN Blue Jay reporter. Man.
320.
Yeah.
Sorry, that number is just
well, that's
outrageous.
Like, our society is changing. People are approaching different topics in different ways. But asking athletes to be in shape, the idea that isn't a requisite, like that is just, it's bonkers. And it's relative because there are different sizes and different body types. But if Manoah is at his best at a certain weight and he comes in 20 to 30 pounds over it, then relative to his situation, he's not in shape. Now, Scotty said it sounds like maybe there was a reason behind that. He doesn't have all of those details yet, so he's not going to report on that. Listen, I think from Manoah's standpoint, if it is about, okay, you just got to get in the right place, right, that's a good thing, actually, because you can get there. You just got to work on it. Yeah. But you get back, and it's all good. You get the velocity back up. You get your confidence back. It would, in a weird way, if it was something, about, if there was a significant injury at play or something more
mechanical, something mechanical, right, where it's like this guy he's got the yips. Yes. Like he completely forgot how to pitch, which maybe is at play a little bit. But I will say, just talking about the standards for being a professional athlete in the best leagues in the world, Like a lot of times if coaches, strength coaches, if they're getting on you about something like weight or what kind of shape you're in, it's coming from a place where these guys just want to help you, man. Like they want to help you achieve your potential and help the team. It's not shaming. It's like, this is the best league in the world. There's hundreds of guys that want your job.
And they know that you have to do it to succeed.
Well, yeah.
Like you have to do it if you want to unleash everything you're capable of unleashing.
Totally.
And they know that.
But if they've seen something and you've set the bar and that's what it looked like. Now, if he played at a certain weight last year and quite honestly dominated, like there were how many nights where we were like that, he just absolutely dominated the game, dominated the
And he
mound.
wanted to go deep into games.
Sure,
like that's,
like,
you know what I mean? Like there's
an
endurance behind that.
Beast. Endurance, the confidence, staring down batters, chirping them, going at Garrett Cole. Like, it's not about, him being shredded. It's about him being in shape for what he does, for that frame, for his body.
Relative
to him. And then you add on weight onto that. There's probably, if you want to say percentages, there's a large percentage that might have led to some mechanical breakdown or something.
And
then you add in the pitch clock. You add in things like that.
Yeah.
So it just snowballs. But like you say, if there is, I don't think it's a quick fix. It's more about, hey, he needs to go and work on this, this, and this. But obviously today's stat line is not encouraging. But it would be encouraging if they're like, yeah, he looks better, looks like he's, rounding into shape for him. Then that's what you need.
There's
to
no
focus on.
sugarcoating what happened today and what's happened with Manoah the whole year. I mean, it's
right.
It's an ugly situation, and he's got to deal with it. The Jays have to do everything they can to prop him up, but right now he is a long ways away from being an option.
Unless there was an injury or something that they didn't report, or something that, like I say, Scotty didn't want to talk about. That's on him. That's on the player in the offseason.
It's a requisite of being a pro athlete.
Take care of yourself.
And you do need to, like, if you get hurt in the offseason, the first phone call you need to make is your general manager or someone in the organization say, listen, man, I was running today and I pulled a hammy. I'm just letting you guys know this is where it's at. Yep. What do you want? You want me to fly out? You want me to see someone here? Like, what do you want me to do?
Call the team doctor. Say, I hurt myself today. Okay, you're on a bird to get in here. We'll give you an MRI, whatever.
Here's the deal. Everyone needs to know.
Right. So maybe we're not privy to that information, but, this might be one layer to what's going on with him, which is unfortunate because that's,
Well, he's got to get it. I mean, and in reality, in pro sports, but also just in life, like you got to dig yourself out.
Yeah.
Because the team will do everything they can to supply him with resources, to supply him with the necessary support. You'd have to believe that's the case.
Some mental help, too. Like, as much as it's physical, it's going to be between the ears. Yeah. But at least I think after this performance today, everyone can kind of look at it and say, this is not happening anytime soon. Like all the parties involved are in this for the long haul now. That's what today's stat line would tell me.
Yeah. And hopefully for his sake, you move past it, get yourself in a position where you start reeling again, and you get back up here whenever you get back up here. But
what's weird.
It's really ugly for Alek Manoah right now. Really,
I feel
really
like
ugly.
This is what's
I can't
weird
sugarcoat it, and I'm not going to.
Propping him up, but I feel like before the season, they were like, he worked really hard in the offseason, and he's in great shape. I swear.
I think they say that about everyone. I think it's an example of how you take everything with a grain of salt. Anyone saying anything publicly about anybody.
Yeah.
As bad as it sounds, I just think that's the way PR teams in pro sports operate now. Everyone's great. Everyone's awesome.
You know who had
Everyone's
that
doing
today?
So well.
Like Pierre Dorion had that today, where he was asked if he wanted to move up in the draft. It's like, no, they're picking like late in the draft.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, no, we're not moving up. Meanwhile, last year he said the same thing. He traded for DeBrincat. He got Kurt.
Yeah, like you're obviously selling the company line.
Yeah.
But like there's no way you can be like, yeah, he looks great, he's in great shape when he's not.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine though, like at camp, right? Like imagine at camp, they go, how's he looking? Like, didn't have a great offseason. Doesn't look very good.
We got another example today. Like Schneider is doing everything he can to suggest that the actual performance doesn't matter.
Right.
That everything else is completely positive. And that's on you if you want to buy it. I don't believe I don't believe down at the Dome they're sitting there with their feet up saying, hey, a lot of positives. I think they probably are freaking out.
Yeah.
And probably saying, what do we do now?
Yeah, what's going on here?
To move past, what happened here in the Florida Complex League. Yeah. All right, Jason Strudwick coming up. Struddy might have played in the Complex League. I think there's a chance, right? The Alberta Complex League. I think Struddy was a part of that. So we'll get to that. Our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, we'll get to our best bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Jason Strudwick coming up here in a moment. Struddy, get his take on Pierre-Luc Dubois on his way to L.A. He got a sign and trade out of Winnipeg. 8 years, $8.5 million. He's got another year left on his deal. Is he an RFA right now? No, he's got another year left, right? Year, so it's like a 9-year deal basically in L.A. That's a big commitment for the Kings. But they'll be coming off Kopitar.
In 1 year.
In a year. They have Danault, who's a good player.
You got Kopitar, Danault, and Pierre-Luc Dubois down the middle. Now,
that's pretty good.
Velarde's left, but I mean, that Fiala is still there. Trevor Moore, like some good players. Like that LA team is, they might, I don't know if they get a goalie or they go back with Korpisalo, but that team, if they have any room, they might be after big game hunting in goal as well.
Well, they're been a playoff team a couple years in a row.
And they're in a situation where they're trying to get over the hump and beat Edmonton.
Yeah.
Right? Like the Leafs have had issues beating Boston for years, couldn't beat Tampa. Like LA's looking at it, we got to get past the Oilers. How the hell are we going to get past these guys?
Well, yeah, and then you got Vegas on top of that too in your division, right?
Yeah.
So
they're in a little gauntlet there.
They sure are. Absolutely.
They're just lucky they don't have to play against Struddy.
If Struddy was a part of that program still, they might just fold. Yeah. They might just say, forget it. Right?
Way too much stick work.
Yeah. It may just be an uphill battle that you simply cannot accomplish.
Sherwood 40-30 lumber
Sherwood
everywhere.
signed Bedard to a big deal. I saw that today. Yeah, I think Sherwood got him. That's, impressive.
That's a big get.
Absolutely.
Big get.
It's a big get.
Yeah.
Here's Jason Strudwick, longtime NHLer, one of the great Spengler Cup players of all time. What's up, Struddy?
Silver medalist. I just polished it today. I'll send you guys a picture.
Struddy, did you use a Sherwood? What kind of stick did you use, and did they pay you to use it?
I swear, my first year in the minors, the trainer came to me and said, "You need a stick?" I'm like, "Yeah." I don't know if you guys remember branches. It should have been called 2x4. It was the heaviest stick. And they're like, "You can't stick handle." I'm like, I'm using literally a metal beam stick handle. It was brutal. And I still have one downstairs. I always have my buddies over. I'm like, if anyone can lift this over his head, I'll buy you a beer. No one's lifting it over his head. Like, it is, you have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger or Jason Strudwick to get over your head. It was awful. The trainer probably made $5,000 off me. Wow, what a bad.
Yeah, that explains a lot. That's like Babe Ruth's bat. Apparently his bat was like 25 pounds. What are you going to do, Struddy?
I'm not going to compare myself to Babe Ruth.
Okay.
Derek Jeter, maybe, but
you're the Babe Ruth of slow
field.
pitch baseball out in northern Edmonton.
We love it.
Yeah, exactly. The men's league, the 11 p.m. men's league. That's where I'm like the Babe Ruth. Yeah. Very good.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that, Struddy. So we were just talking about Pierre-Luc Dubois getting flipped to L.A. So they have Kopitar, Dubois, and Danault up the middle of the ice. Is that enough to make people in Edmonton shake a little bit, or what?
The Kings are a team I've really liked for a while. I've been very bullish on them. I like the way they've done it, the way they've grown, but they've also kept those two anchors in Kopitar and obviously Doughty. And now they're kind of adding guys. Anderson comes in, and you bring in now Pierre-Luc Dubois. I think pretty heavy. Those two players had an impact on the playoffs for sure. The Kings, but now it's a three deep. Now, do they play it all like that? Do they sometimes mix guys up? Maybe there's ways they do, and sometimes slide up with Leon and Connor. But they're a good tournament. And for the Oilers now, obviously you have two of them. Who's the third? Does Nugent Hopkins now go back to center? Does Ryan McLeod keep upping his game as a young player? This is a tough division. I think for a while people have been kind of just saying it's an easy division, but you look at the Stanley Cup champions, you got the Oilers who, by their own admission, the Vegas said it was the hardest round they had. And now the Kings, I'm not sure about their goaltending. I don't know exactly how that sorts out and how much cap space they have still after this deal, but it's going to be those are three tough teams, and then Calgary, who knows what ends up there. So, yeah, this is I don't know. I don't think it's a great day if you're an Edmonton Oilers player.
Struddy, if you're the LA Kings and you look at the way things went down for Pierre-Luc Dubois in his exit in Columbus, his exit in Winnipeg, like, are you at all concerned about bringing that around your team into the dressing room?
I think back to when he was playing for Columbus, and I think it was against Tampa Bay, where that guy had an unbelievable series. And I remember thinking, this guy is just an absolute animal. So if that is the guy I'm getting, it doesn't matter what happened in the past. I think we say the same with Edmonton Oilers, with Vander Kane. There were some exits from San Jose or Buffalo or Winnipeg. You're like, okay, what's going on? But so far here, he's been a model citizen and a guy who's been welcome and become a leader in this room. So, I understand what you're saying, but if a player helps you win and he kind of keeps in his lane, I think that you're thrilled to get him.
Struddy, what do you make of all the moves, and do you think there's going to be a lot more? I mean, Edmonton, I think, needs to add, even though they don't have much cap space. Calgary, there's a lot swirling around there. Winnipeg, obviously, the first domino starts. Lots of rumblings around the Leafs. I mean, do you think this is going to be a very active draft and free agency?
It does feel like it, and I think that just some of the things we've had happen already I've kind of surprised me. I think the one that surprised me the most was Ryan Johansson going to Colorado. When I think of Colorado, I think of up-tempo, I think of speed, I think of attacking, whether it's Makar or McKinnon or, Landis Calgari's not going to be there next year, or Rantanen. And then I don't know how Johansson fits in there. Like, I don't feel like he's it's not to be fair, but a Colorado type player. So I know they're getting him on the cheap, and I know all that, but what is he? Is he still a top six player? Is he a guy that can drive play? If you're Leon Draisaitl, are you worried about playing against him? Leon and Connor have done fairly well against Nashville. So I don't know. I think that to me is kind of the most surprising move. Now, if they get him back to where he was a couple of years ago, maybe, but guys, that one is a real surprise. I just don't see him as a fit to be an Avs type player.
Black armbands in Edmonton, Struddy, because McDavid didn't get unanimous MVP last night, or what?
I just, you know what? I knew you were going to ask me about this. I don't really care what people vote. It doesn't matter. But when there's some things that are so obvious, and all of a sudden you know more than everybody else. And I'm going to give you an example. When Derek Jeter, I was a Yankees fan, and he's unanimous decision except for one guy doesn't give him the vote to be unanimous into Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what do you know that everybody else doesn't? Are you the guy that now you're the gatekeeper? You're the guy at the door that you shall not pass. Like, it drives me crazy. And then I see this last night. And listen, he wins it. He doesn't care. Everyone knew he was going to win it. But it's one thing if you give him a second place, though. Even a third, I can see. But fifth. So you're telling me a guy who beat the most points for like decades. No one's had more points I'm talking decades, not like a couple of years. More goals since a long time, and he is only fifth best on your ballot. And I can justify it. You can justify it. You can't justify that at all. It makes no sense. And whatever. Whatever. They can do whatever they want. It doesn't change yet. And I would have said the same if it had been a player playing for even the Leafs. Even if Austin Matthews had that kind of a year, I would have said the same thing. Like, it just, I don't know. It's just people, I know better. Do you really know better? Do you really, with everybody else, an historical year? And that's what I just can't, I don't know. It's annoying. I'd rather not know. Don't tell me what the votes were. I don't want to know the one guy knows better than anybody else.
That's the first time I've ever heard someone say, everyone, it's like a hunt right now to find out who voted for who. And like one of the names too is Erik Karlsson. Okay. So like there's a polarizing name. He wins the Norris. Some of the purists might say I need to see a little more defense out of him. I would say this. If a defenseman gets 101 points, like that's the Norris, man. Like I don't care. I can live with minus 26 on a bad team. But like when you watch him play and you think about him, Struddy, like is he back? And you think a lot of teams should be firing up the phone line to bring in Erik Karlsson?
I mean, I like him as a player, but you have to understand, he does have the puck on his stick, but he isn't a hard-nosed defensive player. Now, when you have the puck, I know you don't have to defend. Yeah, well, there are some times you're going to have to defend. The puck's not always on your stick. So I think he needs to be placed with the right type of partner. I think that does help. But yes, I would take him. But to me, the contract is like, it's going to be really tough. I don't think this is like a straight across. And I know if people want to hold up, whatever, is it $2 or $3 million? There might be another team involved to get it down to less. I mean, the cap's gone up barely anything the last couple of years, right? So I would like him on my team, but I don't want him for $8, $9, $10 million just because I'm trying to build the rest of my team around him or him be around the rest of my team. Like for Edmonton, how do you get it down to even? It has to be $5 million, but then you have to move out a $5 million player. So you're moving out. Is it Hyman? I guess he wasn't worth it for the Leafs. That was an amazing sign, but I'm sure that'll change. But then or Nugent Hopkins or whatever, right? Like I don't know how you go about doing that. So I like him, but I want to grind that down because if the Sharks truly want to move him, is it the full $8 million? I don't know how many teams are in contention. If Carlson wants to win, how many teams in contention can eat $8 million or $8.5? I don't think there's many.
No, I'm with you on that. We were talking about that a couple hours ago. It's a very complex situation. It's very aggravating that the guy Winston Norris last night, and you're talking about eating money and not, having a ton of options. It's ridiculous, really. But the nature of the hard cap and COVID factored in, too, as well, and his play, right? Like when he got paid $11.5, he was the man. Like it was understood. This guy was. Yeah, he was the man, and he was not there for quite some time, and then he returned to form last year. But I don't know. I think he's a fascinating case study because even at $8 million, I'm not sure how much you're going to get in return with San Jose based on some of the other moves we've seen, where it's just salary dumping right now. Right. Like it's Taylor Hall, it's Kevin Hayes, it's Ryan Johansson, albeit all lesser players in terms of impact, clearly. But they're getting nothing in return. Nothing. Right. And they're eating money. Like retaining money and getting nothing. It's a wild scene in the NHL right now.
Isn't that why Seattle was able to be so successful right away? Like, I know that the expansion was different for them compared to Vegas, but they started with a blank slate with no bad money, and they didn't take on any bad money. And there you are, a very well-balanced team that's playing into the second round of the playoffs.
Flexible.
Yeah.
Flexible. Very
nimble,
important. Very nimble.
As Tom Brady would say, pliable.
Pliable. Very important stuff. All right, Struddy.
Strud, I wanted to ask, did you, there were people in Edmonton sending me notes. Did you wake up Saturday morning with the driest mouth in Edmonton?
It was pretty dry, buddy. It was a good night. It was an old-fashioned night, right? Every time I thought we were coming to the end, we found another burst of energy.
Uh-oh, you and Noodles taking a peek in Edmonton on Friday night? Dangerous.
Yeah. Well, it was pretty calm, but it just seemed like every time we turned around, something else would pop up. And you can't say no, sure, I'll have one more, and then one more, and all of a sudden it got pretty late. Even Uber was like, geez, this is too late for us. You have to walk home.
When you can't find an Uber, you're putting
Uber
on a big night.
And you're doing the spins on the sidewalk, and you're like, I can't find an Uber. I need to sit somewhere.
Yeah. That is concerning, man. That is concerning. Well, Struddy, we'll let you get back to sleep then, man. It's the 4-day hangovers. They can get the best of us. So grind through it, pal, and we'll do it again soon. Thank you for this.
Okay, talk to you guys later.
There's our buddy Jason Strudwick from the Got Your Back podcast.
Yep.
Got to make sure I plug that for the boys.
Exactly.
And good to see Struddy. Good to have him on as always. And it's going to be a busy week in the NHL.
I think it is going to be.
It already has been. Like there have been legit names getting flipped, and there's a lot of rumors. Like in Toronto, we're waiting for the Leafs for something to break here.
Right.
For some understanding that the deals are either done or the deals are breaking off. Like the Matthews deal, it feels like a foregone conclusion. It's going to happen.
It's just term and money.
What's it going to look like, and when's it going to happen? Maybe it does. Maybe it happens on July 1. Maybe it's July 15th. Maybe it's August 1st. I don't know. But I think the Leafs are comfortable in riding that out and figuring it out.
Right.
Willie is the one where you wait to see what's going to happen with Nylander, what happens with Murray, and then, what happens with the other UFAs that they're likely talking to. O'Reilly, Shen, Kampf,
I just
Throw Chari in there, maybe.
Well, Bunting's not even in discussion right now, which is wild. You just don't even hear his name.
I think he's going to get more money than they want to spend on him, or they probably can spend on him.
He's the most fascinating. Like, I know I've said that too many times because I think Nylander's numbers the most fascinating for me, but Bunting as well, based on the success he had here. Mm-hmm. Can he replicate that with another organization that maybe sees him farther down in the lineup? Because you're not going to get that production. Because you've got to look at what he did in Arizona, where they were comfortable enough to move past him, where he was up and down with them, younger player at that point. Gets here, really fits in with Matthews and Marner. Now, you're playing with two elite players.
But he took advantage of it.
And he did. And he did a very good job. But then there were times in this past season where he's moved away from that line, not very effective. It may be effective as far as getting under the skin and agitating, but not a point producer. You know,
right.
And so what is
at a cheaper price too? Now, if you get
exactly. So if you're going to pay this guy $4 million a year, what is he for your? Like it'd be very interesting to see the organization that brings him in and the role they have envisioned for him. Mm-hmm. So everyone's pointing, well, Kyle's going to want to bring him to Pittsburgh to play with Sid. So Gensel's out? Like Gensel can't play with,
I think that's such a silly notion that a general manager goes somewhere and automatically it's like, no, he's bringing in all his boys. Like, I understand he's going to bring in some guys he's familiar with, couple. But this notion that, like, they just go to a different team and it's like, yeah, I'm bringing everyone. I'm bringing Bunting, Hall, Kerfoot, Kampf. I'm just bringing the whole Leafs over. It's kind of, it's a little silly.
It's unlikely. It's a fresh start for Dubas as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he brought over, like, one of those guys.
I agree.
If one of them
I think one
come
or two,
over as a UFA.
But that's why I keep waiting. What's Tree going to do with some of the guys in Calgary? Because I guarantee you, he likes one or two that might be available.
Well, and that's one of those situations.
Do
you take one of those guys just for the year, knowing that, like Hannafin, right? He wants to be in the States. Do you want him for a year, just to try it out?
Now, can Hannafin play the right side? That would be because I think that they need right side help more than they need left. Because if you got Riley and McCabe. Is Gio your 6 or 7?
Based on contract, he is right now, and I would assume he shows up and plays until we hear otherwise.
I would be like, if you could get that Lindholm, I know he hasn't closed the door on Calgary, and they're trying to sign him. If you could get that guy and move Tavares to the wing, now you're in business. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now you're in business.
That would take a big haul. That's the thing, though. They don't. They got 3 picks in this draft. They don't have a great prospect pool. In terms of high-end guys. They've got a number of players that could pan out.
Well, I love how people just give him Nick Robertson. Yeah, what if they don't want him?
Well, exactly. And Robertson's value has depleted significantly.
Well, the thing is we can joke around and create trades, but at the end of the day, if the manager at the other end goes, "You're ridiculous," and hangs up, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to happen.
No.
Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel. Still to come. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, today's Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Yes, Gosman's on the mound. Yes, the Jays have just taken 2 out of 3, but I'm on the Giants on the run line tonight, plus 1.5. Okay. All right, I expect a close game. I think a lower-scoring game. But the Giants, since May 1st, have got the best record in baseball. I believe they've won 9 in a row on the road. They're a very good team. And they're coming in playing really well. The Jays have been an inconsistent team. The Dome is opening tonight. I don't think that factors into the way it's going to play out. But Gosman on the mound, Jays at home, the price, it's a steep price if you're going to bet the Jays outright. I could see a one-run game tonight, and that's why I would take the Giants plus 1.5. And I like Cincy to respond. Two young teams. Baltimore beat them up bad last night. Baltimore is kind of the equivalent of Cincinnati in the American League. Cincinnati came in there red hot.
Yeah,
I think Cincinnati bounced back tonight. I like the Reds again plus money on the money line tonight for Cincinnati. So that's what I'm on. Giants plus 1.5 tonight. Cincinnati tonight down in Baltimore. Today's Best Bets powered by FanDuel. The first inning means as much as the ninth when you bet baseball on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. Must be 19 plus. Physically located in Ontario.
All right,
boys. Shout out to Dave right?
Dave back there.
Is it Dave?
Matt on the board.
Well, he's Dave now.
Dave now.
Now he's Dave.
Way to work,
Dave Matthews.
Matt Dave.
Dave Matthews on the on the mound, on the mic, on the board, man. He's back there with JP and the grappler and Joe from the bridge. So
JP's
shout out to all the
back there,
boys.
too? I didn't see him
JP's
there.
back there. He's helping. There's a lot of people.
He's training.
There's a lot of
He's
chefs
training
in the
Dave Matthews.
kitchen.
Oh wow, I love it.
Dave
I love
Matthews
Good
is
stuff back
he's
there.
making things happen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frankie, for popping in.
Thanks for having me,
Good
boys.
seeing you, buddy.
Appreciate
the Dog
it.
will be back tomorrow. Yeah. Thanks to everyone for tuning in today. Radio, TV, podcast, web. We appreciate it. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.